Okay, so with the release of Lava Shelter and Glitter Canyon, I think it's time for me to take a look back. I started modding Forces with Wave Ocean, so let's do a little developer commentary on it and see, have me point out some things that I would have changed if I do this again. So that intro I'm going with. There is a bit of a snap there, because there is an invisible dash panel on this pier. I'll actually see if I can land the avatar on it. Yeah, so just here there's an invisible dash panel, so that the avatar snaps into place. And yeah, the main thing that's immediately noticeable, Westopolis has this problem as well. There are no cameras set up except in places that absolutely needed them. So as a result, cameras in Wave Ocean are very wonky. There's also no, barely any splines. This intro loop has one, but again, it's all in objects. There is no actual proper level splines. There's no pathfinder for this map. So as a result, any splines were manually placed, and as a result, I usually didn't bother with them. So as a result, it's very easy to just run off stages in areas where you should be guided along a path. You can run off straight here. If I was to redo Wave Ocean, that would be fixed. There would be a spline along this tunnel. Well, there'd be a spline along this main stage to guide the camera. And the auto run would probably start a bit further back, because there is an auto run on this loop, but it starts on that dash panel. First use of the unused grapple object, which initially was placed below this pole, but someone suggested to move it up, and that makes a lot of sense to be honest, because it looks like you're actually grappling around the pole. It actually flings you a bit too far. You do have to either let go of the analog stick or stomp to land on this platform. And then that spring just takes you over to the next checkpoint. Large group of enemies. I don't quite know what I was doing here. I guess I wanted to fill out the space for at least force you to fight with at least one. There's a wisp capsule for cube up here, so if you're down here you can actually skip over and just go up. And if not, you go this way. This is actually a proper spline, this rail. It's one of the few proper splines in this level. Same with the lighthouse rail in a minute. But as this is Forces, there is a slight problem with these. If you grind backwards along them, that happens. Tiny hose catching. That 10 ring is a bit wonky to collect sometimes. Sometimes you miss it. Usually if you're using a physics mod, which I'm not, I always design my stages around the base game physics. I'm trying to remember if I put anything over here. No, I didn't, because of how much of a pain it would have been to get it. And there's that. Initially, there was a ring trail here, but it was really wonkily placed, and it would have been locked to lightning. So I said replace it with this island and this spring. That camera is to cover up something which I'll show you in a minute, which will require me to die to actually reset it. Use the free cam to travel back a little bit. These springs are all manually placed. It was a pain in the ass to figure out the timings on them. But yeah, that rail is to cover up the camera being broken there from the cave. I don't have the right wisp, but there's a multi-wisp capsule here to get you up to there, or up there. Bit of a layering issue there on the number rings. I assumed the leaves in the distance were meant to be a punch transparency, and not the other one. I was kind of running out of ideas here, so I just used a pole, which I shouldn't have used this because these don't work too well in 3D. You have to be kind of precise on them. And you can also go down over here. I was kind of just haphazardly placing enemies to fill out the empty space. I'd completely forgotten that motorbugs existed at this point, so that's why there is only the Wave Ocean. There is an auto run placed here. I think some people suggested not having an auto run, but it's very easy to fall off this wall without it. So I'd put one in just to... It's more accurate to the original 06. And this is something that I would definitely scrap if I redid this stage. This spring, if you touch the analog stick pretty much at all while it's flying, while you're being flung from it, you just fall and die. Because for some reason, the out of control value that these have to lock the player's input, well, it also locks vertical input, so gravity doesn't work. which is very strange. So as a result, you completely overshoot the ring. So I did that as a result. The Void Wisp here could have been better conveyed. You're supposed to use it for something like that, though I think in a preview video I used it to skip over to that island and then jumped in midair to get to it, but it's kind of strange. If I was doing this again, I'd probably have platforms here rather than 2 grapple points. And then round here there is a spring, but it's not very well, again there's no camera so you can't even see it. But I think, okay, there's not something up here. Yeah, you had to go around here. Again, there was no cameras, so this was kind of a pain in the ass. So a redo, if I ever do one, would have cameras there. Also, the water should be transparent, but because there's all this stuff beneath it. But transparent water is kind of a pain in the ass and doesn't always work. Again, more grapple points and then a homing attack chain. Kind of the basic of Sig of level design. The rings here were just to indicate that you'd have to go this way. Again, there should have been a camera pointing at that checkpoint, but there wasn't. Over here, random enemy. And I think there was a super in here, but I already picked it up with the... Unless it's these ones. I think it's just these ones, actually. I'm running off, like, memories from, like, 6 months ago or whatever. I'd have to look at when I, made Wave version, actually. Hey, hey, future me. Red text, please. Thank you. So yeah, that's a way to get a red star ring, using a time challenge on the grapple point. The mountains and stuff here, and the Soliana Castle, they were only added, like, right before release. The last work in progress doesn't have those. It's just, I felt the edge of the stage looked a bit barren, the water just kind of cut off. Also, the clock towers, there's actually a second one in the start of the stage that I don't think you can actually see it. Yeah, in normal gameplay you can't see that one over there because it's cut off by the mountains. Again, there should have been a spline to guide the player to the jump board here, but there isn't. And this section was a pain in the ass because it's so open. And there was very little to put here. At this point I just kind of gave up on design, which was a bit silly. Like, this area is very empty. This cave was also a pain in the ass. Like, for some reason, I did this in Glyphic Canyon as well. If you notice, none of my release stages have used the Lost Valley lighting. And that's because shadows in the Lost Valley lighting, for some reason, always seem extremely glossy. And I don't know why. Like, they looked best with the city lighting, if you ask me. Which is why I switched to using Sunset Heights. Which also gave Wave Ocean a nice, accidental, unique feel to it. Because I don't think it was never in Sunset in 06. And I think it looks pretty nice. This... I always knew I wanted a quick step section of Somersault here, but it's kind of clunky. And then a home attack chain. These enemies don't respawn, by the way. But I did actually think about that. Because over here, there's this, which can get you up there if you destroy those enemies. There is also a problem with this quick step section, I think. Like, I think if you run under it, yeah, you get pushed back out. Because it's a quick step volume, not a trigger. Because there's no path, so I couldn't use a trigger even if we had them cracked at that point. So this was before all the objects were cracked. So we would crack them one by one. Ugh. You're supposed to use a grapple point in there to get over, or Void. So that's the Avatar one. This was the main focus for Wave Ocean. But I also, as you probably know, I also threw together the Episode Shadow one. The reason I did this is because the Episode Shadow stages, and by extension the extra stages, which is also why I did Westopolis Siege, they use the terrain from the main game. So, Episode Shadow, the virtual reality stage, it uses the Guardian Rock terrain. So as a result, I just had to make a G-edit for it, so set data. And the use of the Emerald Coast music here was because in Episode Shadow all the music comes from the adventure era games, so I decided, why the hell not? Let's use the modern Emerald Coast. Oh, actually this is classical coast, I think. So yeah, this red star ring, you have to air boost over to get it. I think that was a pretty nice idea. I do like that. This is another point where you really don't want to use the boost, because otherwise you just go flying off, like I said. So yeah, the way this... Oop, and that glitch. The way this Jedit was made, it was made by copying over the Avatar one and then making small adjustments to it. So like here, I changed all but 2 of these enemies to the laser machine gun acorns. Also added these around. Interestingly, I'm trying to remember if they actually do animate, but they don't animate here, besides up and down. Also, they don't make their sound, because the sound's missing from the Green Hill files. Which is another issue I might suffer with Shattered Memories. But I'll cross that when I come to it. So, this was one of the main things that inspired me to do the episode Shadow one, was I realised that I could use all of these for something. So I did. This Wisp Capsule respawns because you do need boost, I think. Yeah, because you need to air boost across. But this one, you just use the egg tanks projectiles. A lot of people don't seem to realise that enemy exists. I think it's only used in an episode Shadow stage. Or maybe some classic stages, I can't remember. Yeah, this is one of the points where I did use a camera. And this Wisp Capsule respawns as well, because you have to do this. And there's a classic monitor here. I was going to use these in the main stage, but the game actually crashes if you use certain Wisp bombs on a classic monitor for some reason. It's very strange as to why that happens. So for this, the spring up to the lighthouse is gone, because if you boost on this rail, it causes some weird problems. So instead, I decided to make you do this. The camera here could have been better, because as you saw, it can pan away. And again, more homing attacking. This was silly. Oh, this was a silly object placement. I should have moved this over so the camera doesn't get obscured by it. It's also a kind of pain in the ass to see the hitbox. The balloons, again, missing the sound because it doesn't exist. The camera was just there because it looked cool. And this, I don't know what I was doing with this. Case in point, that's a complete pain in the ass to navigate. Correct the camera. But yeah, that's just there for some numberings. I think there's also a red star ring, is there? Yeah, there is. That's the Silver Moon medals and a red star ring. What's up here again? Oh yeah, this is just to skip over this section down here, using the R run. Let's see here. Did I do the same thing? No, I forced you to boost up this ramp. Even though it doesn't work correctly sometimes. Again, there are a lot of design things that I could have done better. What did I put down here? I can't remember. Did I put anything down here? No, I didn't. I should have put like a super ring down there or something. And again, I should have had the camera rotate. There are a lot of points where the camera could have been a lot better. But I didn't know what I was doing. This was a bit lazy, just stacking metal crates on top of each other. And same with this, I didn't really know what I was doing here either. I actually initially wanted to put Shadow's Let's Get Moving line there, but I never did. Because I didn't know how to do voice line porting at that point. I only learned that with Westopolis. And even then, with Westopolis and Lava Shelter, the internal structure of the voice lines is a mess. Because I didn't know how to edit caption RFLs at that point. So I was finding the lines for Lost Valley and replacing them. Another case where you have to use an air boost. I think that enemy is there as a safety net for a homing attack, but you don't need him. Another cheap set of boxes to stop you going that way, you have to go this way. I think I originally planned to cut the episode Shadow stage off here. Then I decided, screw it, let's actually have him go at Shadow section. Is there any reason to go over here in this one? No, there isn't. What about over here? Well, this guy's still here. Just the same super rings, okay. I know what people are probably saying, oh, the right stick mod exists, use that. The right stick mod without a actual camera in the stage is a pain in the ass. It doesn't work very well, and even with actual cameras it's still kind of wonky. This dash panel was redundant. Another giant set of walls, or boxes, which force you to go over here. Yeah, did I? Yeah, I put a random bed of spikes here for some stupid reason. I don't know what those are for. It's not exactly difficult to jump over them. The safety net dash panel is gone. These guys are all still here. For this you have to quick step to dodge these, but actually, you only get a quick step at the end. And I believe that balloon respawns. And then an air boost to finish the stage. Although, yeah, I hit a red star in behind the gold ring. In which case I probably should have shortened the gold's trigger. Either way, that's Wave Ocean. That was the first Forces mod I ever made. I'd love to return to it at some point, but I'd want a way to get the original splines and collision from 06 before trying it again. Because I feel like I've learned enough to make it a much, much better stage. We'll see what happens in the future, but right now my priority is on the Shattered Memories episode Shadow stage. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this brief insight into the development of that stage. Well, stages, because it's two of them, but whatever. And yeah, the hang contest is on as I record this. So maybe go check out the entries, check out Glyphic Canyon and Lava Shelter maybe. There's no wink wink. I'm going to stop talking now because this is being padded out now.